a majestic creature the size of an elephant who could stand on two legs to make one of the most intimidating mammals in history. A superb underground tunnel builder whose legacy remains 10,000 years after its demise. A giant version of one of the most beloved animals in the Americas. This is the giant ground sloth. Hey, I'm Talialoe Mary, and you're watching Paleologic. These majestic creatures lived in the Pleistocene from about 3.5 million to 10,000 years ago. They lived in the same ecosystems as the terror birds, the Thylacosmilus, and Glyptodons during a time when South America was an isolated island continent and mammals grew to massive sizes. The largest of the giant ground sloths was the Megatherium. Members of this genus could be up to 6 meters long and weigh up to 4 tons, roughly the same as an African elephant. During their reign in the Pleistocene, mammoths were the only land mammals larger than them. At the time, there were no predators nearly large enough to take them on, so once they reached their mature size, they could comfortably walk around the South American grasslands without fear. Megatherium had 5 15-centimeter-long claws on each front paw that could easily gut any potential predator. These were not creatures you would mess around with. Because of their dagger hands, they had to walk with their feet turned inwards. Their distant cousin, the giant anteater, does the same to protect its claws and itself. Unlike other giant animals, ground sloths weren't satisfied with just ruling their stomping grounds. They also needed to rule the underground. They used their massive strength and heavy-duty claws to dig immense tunnels called paleoburrows. Some caves were over 250 meters long and were thought to have been about 2 meters tall and 1 meter wide. Now they look much wider because of erosion. After their extinction, some of those caves were used by people as shelter. So thanks, giant ground sloths, for providing one of the earliest known forms of public housing. There is also uncertainty on how the Megatherium looked. Most depictions show them as furry giants, which makes sense considering what their modern-day cousins look like. But given their size and the areas where they lived, it might have been hard to keep cool if they were woolly. So it's very possible that they looked like a giant version of a fat, hairless cat. But unlike cats, these behemoths likely had no interest in meaty treats. Their teeth were similar to those of cows and horses, only bigger, and they were used to grind gritty, fibrous plants. Some of those plants were found on the ground, but they also got food from trees. Despite their huge size, they were able to stand on their hind legs and used their thick tail for balance, essentially making a tripod. They were likely to have been able to walk on their hind legs for short distances. Some scientists have suggested that they could have eaten carrion as a way to supplement their plant-based diet, but so far, there's no evidence that this was the case. Like most of the giant South American animals of the Pleistocene, the arrival of North American animals during the Great American Interchange began a downward trend for ground sloths that eventually led to extinction. But for a while, they were resilient and were some of the most successful animals that moved to North America. Finally, it was a changing climate and the growth of human populations in the Americas that doomed these marvelous creatures. Giant ground sloth bones with evidence of butchering have been found in Argentina, so it's clear that humans played a part in their demise. The last giant ground sloth died roughly 10,000 years ago, but they left us thousands of caves that still bear their claw marks. If you're ever in South America, see if you can find a cave nearby. It could be one of the most direct ways of appreciating the grandeur of these Pleistocene animals.